Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Tips from my garden shed. Haven't done one of these for a little while now, so I decided now we're heading into spring, and next week I'll be starting my spring campaign on St. Ives. I'll just talk about some of the baits and tactics and just getting ready for spring and what I do to prepare myself for probably the best time of year in my opinion, when the fish are waking up. They're probably at their easiest to catch. So, you know, any other time of the year in the summer they're very difficult. You know, there's a lot of naturals about. This time of year they're waking up and they're hungry, trying to build themselves up for spawning. You know, I know autumn can be a very good time, but normally the fish have seen it all by then. So for me, spring is the time to be out on the bank. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about particles. I mean, I love particles, as you know. There's always particles in my mix as well as boilies. I'm a bits man. You know, I very rarely use just boilies. You know, I know a lot of people like doing that and it works well, especially with big fish, but I've always been a bits man. Bits and pieces, get the fish grubbing around, keep them in the area for as long as I can, and hopefully get a bite. You know, that's the way I fish and it seems to work for me. So I'm going to talk to you about tiger nuts and how I prepare them and how I use them. I very rarely put whole tiger nuts in my mix or use whole tiger nuts. I try and do things a little bit different to the norm. And when tiger nuts get eaten by a carp, they get chewed up, they excrete them, and then they get eaten again. And I think that is how I try and make my tiger nuts look as if they've already been eaten at least once before. And the fish come in and I think they eat them without caution, so I always use chopped up nuts, and my hook bait I always cut down, try and make it look like the free offerings, and it just seems to work. You know, on waters they've been pressured with nuts and caught a lot. It's a tactic I know works a lot. I mean, I've spoken to a few lads about this and it's definitely put them a few extra fish on the bank. And then especially in the spring I think nuts can be very, very good. Well, the water's warming up, you don't want all the fish meals and the high oils still, but they're after food. They do like a nut, and you know, they work all year round, but nuts I think do work really well in the spring, and on tricky waters they can catch some very rare fish to the bank, and on them natural venues where they haven't seen a lot of boilies, there's no better bait. So instead of me waffling on, I'm going to give you guys a little look around my shed in a minute and just sort of show you how I start the year. All my kit's been cleaned, everything's ready, prepared. I've got everything to go, ready for that campaign. Do the same every year, and then hopefully I can have a really good spring. You know, it won't be as tidy once I get into the summer, but I always like to start well, keep going. Preparation is key. It's never wasted. You can't over prepare. Everything you do at home saves you that vital time on the bank, and it could put you an extra fish or two on the bank throughout the course of a season. So I'll give you a little look at that now in a minute, and then I'll show you how to prepare my tiger nuts, and then I'll give you a little look at them in the tank, and we'll just go from there. So for now, cheers guys. Right guys, I'll just give you a little tour of my shed as I prepare for my spring campaign. As I've already talked about already, I use a lot of particles in my fishing, and I've probably got 300 or 400 kilo in stock at the minute. And I've got a bin there full of maple peas, and another bin there full of maize, buckwheat, groats, some ready-made boilies there from spar baits. If I've got a quick session, some pop-ups up there, my Himalayan rock salt, big tub of it there, sweet corn all ready to go, rigs all in the rig box prepared, testing tank there, liquids, more particles down underneath there, a big Barco cooker there, all my nuts down in here, massive chest freezer over here. Full of hemp and boilies. All my kit's organised, reels have been redone, all the kit's been cleaned, ready to go, ready for my spring campaign. So there we are, guys. That's a little look. At my shed. Cheers, guys. So right, guys, I start off with my dry tiger nuts. Just come like this, all dried out. I then just put the however many I want in a bucket, and then I just put them in water. Make sure there's plenty of water covering them. Or sort of twice as much water to however many tiger nuts you got, because they will soak up quite a bit. Then I leave them for a minimum of 24 hours to soak it all up. You can see they're a lot bigger already. I get some in here. See, all swollen up already, a lot bigger. And then I'll cook them now in a minute. I'll put them in the boiler and cook them for 35-40 minutes, and then they'll swell up again as they're being cooked, which will make sure they're totally swole up. It's a lot softer than what they started and safe for the carp to eat, and they will start to produce all the natural sugars and the attraction and the crunch that carp love with this bait. So we'll go into the boiler now in a second, and then I'll come back, I'll put that on the boil, I'll come back 35-40 minutes, get them out, and then I'll show you what I do with them next. Cheers, guys. Right, well the tiger nuts are boiling away there. I'll just show you through my rig. What I do is I take 2 tiger nuts, I drill them out, I pre-select all my hook baits, so I always go for the bigger ones. That I've got them glugging in pots like this. I'll give you a little look at them in a minute, but the liquid they're soaking in is a little bit special. I'm not going to give anything away on that at the minute. At some point I might talk about it, but I've got to keep a few edges for myself. But it is one of them liquids, unbelievable. It's taken me a long time to sort of come to that myself and figure that out and work something out that really suits tigers well. I think I've totally nailed it. I've been using it for years and catches me a lot of fish. At some point I might let people in on that little secret. I may even bring it out for spar baits. We'll see what happens in the future. Basically though, I take 2 tiger nuts I pre-selected, I drill them out 3/4 of the way through. I then take a piece of cork, push that in, cut the cork off so it'll fit in the other side like that. Got a bit of a mushroom going on there. Put that in that side. I then thread this onto a baiting needle and I pull it onto the rig. Then I chop all the skin off so it looks like a chewed down tiger. But what that also does as well, once you chop it all off, it balances the hook bait really nicely. So if the carp comes along, sucks it up, goes straight in, flies into the back of the mouth, and hopefully you put a fish on the bank. It also helps it balance and sit back out if you get ejected by a fish. and it'll sit over top of the weed and all that sort of stuff. I'll put it on the rig in a minute and chop it down. I'm not going to show you all that because it's a bit monotonous, but then I'll show you the rig, and I'll put that rig in the tank, and we'll also, once the tigers are finished, I'll show you how I chop them up with my boilie chopper, and I'll show you some of that in the tank. But basically that's what I use from a rig. I use it on my standard go-to slip D rig, same rig I pretty much use for 95 to 100% of my fishing. It's not very often I use a different rig. I mean, I use a slight variation of it for pop-ups and bottom baits. I mean, I'll go into that again on a different day. And then I got a rig that I use if I'm going for ultimate distance and I can't put a PVA nugget on, or a little stick of a stick mix. But basically that's it. Very few rigs I use. I use what works. It's worked for me for years. There's just no need to change it. Like I said, I'll just give you a little quick peek in here. And you can see all the sugars coming off it already on the rim, but they've been glugged in there for quite some time now. Big size tigers. Something really get a decent bit of cork in. You can chop them down a lot. They're going to soak up a lot of attraction. Like this liquid, unbelievable. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about that at the minute. Massive edge. Maybe that's one for the future. But that's my hook baits. And for now, get back to these tigers. They'll come off the boil in a minute. I'll let them cool a little bit, and then get back to chopping them up and doing the tank tests. Cheers guys. Right guys, I now got the tiger nuts out of the Barco, and I've let them cool a bit, and now I'm going to chop them up. I use the Ridge Monkey chopper. I use this for my boilies as well. The only difference between when I do my boilies and when I do my tiger nuts is I've now got the particle plate on rather than the boilie plate. It's just a little bit finer, cuts them nuts up a bit smaller. But basically, so ready, you just chuck them in. I'm not going to put too many in because normally you'll shut the lid, that'll stop them going out anywhere. But because I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes, it's literally hold on, turn the handle, and just cut them up. Not too easy on this top because, like I said, I can't really get the leverage and they're sort of trying to jump everywhere. So normally put a load in like this, get it down, lean on it, just around you go really. Once you get it going, it's relatively easy. You just keep doing that until you've chopped up all your nuts, and then it'll all go through into the bottom, chopped up. Like I haven't got much in here in it, but should hopefully be able to pop this lid off and show you that. The lid off. Got a lot of nut in here, but this is kind of the desired effect. All chopped up bits of tiger. Looks like the carp's already eaten it, chewed it up with its teeth. It's gone through its system and it'd pass it out like this, and that's the sort of desired effect I'm going to use. So I'll now put a rig in the tank, and I'll put a little bit of this in just to show you how the tiger works. Normally I put it in with hemp, buckwheat, that sort of thing, but occasionally I'll just put a little handful of this out. You know, half spodful, whatever, depending on the distance I'm fishing, and then just fish a tiger over the top. But normally it's with other particles. But that's the general idea. Great stalking bait this, brilliant. Just a little small handful like that, half a handful even. Couple hundred pieces, something like that. Just flick that out into the edge. Wait for the fish to come in, lower your rig in, little chopped tiger, away you go. So there we are guys, we'll have a look now at the tank tests. Just a quick look like what it looks like underwater. Cheers guys. So there we are, guys. That's a little look at my tiger nuts and how I sort of set myself out in the spring. You know, I still feed boilies, I still use boilies, but that's just another little edge and something I find works well throughout the spring. You know, sort of using it, thinking outside the box, using it differently, how most people would use it, thinking how the fish will look at it as a safe food to eat. It's slightly different as well, as that in the spring the fish's eyesight isn't as great, they're just waking up, they're a little bit lethargic, cold water still affects their eyesight, so chopping that tiger down, making it a bright hook bait as well with a lot of the chop bits is a good attraction. Okay, they could shy off it a bit throughout the summer months, but you can, it's just trial and error, like with everything. But to me, this is the perfect way to use tiger nuts. I mean, most fish have seen tiger nuts time and time again, and doing it this way definitely makes a difference, definitely puts you extra fish on the bank. Worked for me for years and years now. You know, I shared it with a few guys, and a few guys that have used it on waters that do see a lot of tiger nuts and are sort of dominated more by nuts rather than boilies. They've done this and it's put them fish on the bank. There's no coincidence. Great method. Hope you enjoyed the video. Get out there, enjoy your spring, do your fishing, and hopefully we can catch a few. So for now, it's tight lines from me. So until next time, cheers guys.